Number 8. The murder of a helping hand. On January 19, 2014, a man was found beaten to death in his house, and a missing person became the prime suspect during the investigation. 19-year-old Sarah Brooke Gonzalez McLean had been reported missing, but authorities later suspected that she committed the homicide of her 52-year-old Kansas pizza shop boss Harold M. Sasko. McLean had been living with Sasko in Lawrence, near Topeka, where they shared a home. But the circumstances took a dark turn when Sasko was found beaten to death in the house. Court documents show that she properly planned and carried out Sasko's murder. Kimberly Qualls, Sasko's ex-girlfriend, revealed that she was dating him when he informed her in 2012 that McLean would be staying with him. Sasko's intention was to help McLean in overcoming her drug-related issues and distancing her from dangerous gang associations. Qualls expressed concerns about the situation, believing that it could lead to negative consequences, but Sasko did not listen. According to the authorities, Sasko was unconscious at the time of his murder. While specific details surrounding the incident are unclear, police disclosed that an edged instrument was used as the murder weapon. McLean gained control over Sasko before ultimately taking his life. The discovery of Sasko's lifeless body happened when the police arrived at his house while searching for McLean. Her family had reported her missing after she failed to attend a meeting with her sister Ashley. Notably, Sasko's car was absent from the premises, while McLean's vehicle was still at the scene. This started a search for McLean, with authorities initially uncertain whether she was a victim or a suspect in the crime. But it took 6 days for McLean to be located. On January 25th, a federal park ranger in Dade County, Florida, noticed Sasko's 2008 Nissan Altima parked at a campground in Everglade National Park, around 1,560 miles away from the crime scene. After running the license plates, the ranger realized the vehicle was connected to a murder case and called for backup. McLean was then arrested without any resistance. During the arrest, it was discovered that McLean was in possession of a controlled substance. Authorities believe that she had been living in Sasko's car while staying at the park. Interestingly, McLean was not alone. Sasko's dog Oliver was found accompanying her in the vehicle. In Dade County, the drug charge against McLean was dropped, and a first-degree murder charge was filed against her in Douglas County. Throughout this ordeal, McLean's family had expressed concerns about her safety and maintained their belief that she herself was a victim. They had fervently sought her safe return in the middle of the unfolding investigation and subsequent charges. She was charged with first-degree murder in Sasko's death and was sentenced to at least 50 years in prison before she could be eligible for parole. Number 7. The stabbing of a boss. In August 2021, at Leo's Steak Shop in Falcroft, Delaware County, a man used a 10-inch steak knife to stab his boss. Steve Mullen, the owner of the steak shop, described the experience, relating it to being electrocuted. Surveillance footage revealed the chilling moment when Mullen, standing under the doorway, was unexpectedly attacked from behind by one of his employees. The knife was thrust into his neck, but Mullen didn't even realize he had been stabbed. He tried to fend off his assailant, continuing to fight back despite the knife lodged in his neck, after which his son joined the struggle, holding 2 knives from the store in an effort to protect his father. During the terrifying incident, Mullen found himself incredibly fortunate. A police officer happened to be nearby, directing traffic down the street, and quickly responded to the scene. Within 2 minutes, an ambulance arrived. What's more, Mullen's luck continued when he received medical attention at the hospital. The attending doctor turned out to be a specialist visiting from Chicago who had prior experience removing knives from patients. The doctor assured Mullen that he would survive. Law enforcement arrested the suspect, 43-year-old Sean Walklett, with Falcroft police using a taser during the arrest. Walklett now faces 8 charges, including attempted first-degree murder. Mullen was confused as to why Walklett would stab him, because he had provided his employee with a job, living quarters in his apartment building, and daily meals. It made no sense for the employee to get so hostile. The police investigation revealed that Walklett had a history of mental illness, and law enforcement had previously had issues with him on multiple occasions. Walklett was arrested with bail set at $950,000. He was facing attempted first-degree murder charges and was sentenced to a minimum of 20 years in jail. Number 6. The Big Fraud. In January 2022, a woman resigned from a small family business, only for her fraudulent actions to later be exposed. In Cardiff Crown Court, a fraud case unfolded involving Alison Smith, a 42-year-old woman who was employed as a financial manager at a small family business called Iran Civil Engineering in Blaenavon. Over a period of 9 years, Smith was involved in a calculated fraud scheme, embezzling more than £1.3 million from the company. The animosity between the family members allowed her to carry out hundreds of fraudulent transactions without detection. Smith used the funds to finance her extravagant lifestyle, indulging in expensive vacations, luxury cars, high-end clothing, and renovations to her daughter's home. After Smith resigned from her position, another employee named Anita Lane took on the responsibility of reviewing the firm's end-of-month finances during a meeting with accountants. Lane noted that her involvement in this task was unusual because it had previously been handled by Smith. During the meeting, they discussed a payment that had supposedly been made to the bank account of Oil for Wales, a supplier to the company. But when Iran contacted the supplier, they were unaware of any payment received. Further investigation revealed that the payment had been fraudulently redirected by Smith. She manually input the name Oil for Wales as the beneficiary, but in reality, the payment was directed to herself. A thorough analysis of the company's accounts revealed that Smith had stolen £1,315,143 over the course of the 9 years she had worked for the family. Her method involved duplicating invoices from legitimate suppliers, but altering the bank details so that the payments would be directed to her personal account. At the time of her leaving the company, Smith had a yearly salary of £32,000. While her colleagues noticed her extravagant lifestyle, they never questioned how she could afford it. Smith had gained their trust, and her co-workers had no reason to suspect her fraudulent activities. According to the prosecution, Smith's tactics involved pitting family members against each other. Anita Lane said that Smith intentionally created animosity within the family, attempting to drive Lane and her husband out of the business so that Smith could manipulate her father and other staff members to continue funding her lifestyle. Lane, who had a previously close relationship with her family, recounted the emotional distress caused by Smith's actions. She discovered that Smith went to great lengths to discredit her in the eyes of her colleagues, tearing apart the bond they once shared. The magnitude of the stolen funds had a life-changing impact on Lane's family, leaving her devastated. The experience has led her to withdraw from social activities, opting to keep to herself. Smith, who appeared in court using crutches and wearing a protective boot, pleaded guilty to the fraud charges. Her defense barrister, Jeffrey Jones, revealed that she had recently sustained 3 fractures from a fall. Jones explained that Smith had developed a gambling addiction many years ago, initially starting with bingo and later progressing to online slot machines. After winning £100 from a £10 bet, her gambling habit spiraled out of control. In an attempt to cope with the guilt of her fraudulent actions, Smith turned to alcohol, which ruined her mental state and led to suicidal attempts. Despite her actions, Smith had always been actively involved in supporting her family, from her grandparents to her 3 grandchildren. The court learned that Smith currently has credit card debts ranging between £8,000 and £15,000, and she recently lost her car because of financial difficulties. Considering the impact on the family business, the judge imposed a 5-year prison term, with half of it to be served in custody. Do you think she should have served more years in prison for her crime? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 5. A man's haunting past. In 1979, a 16-year-old stabbed a father-to-be to death on a train, but later went on to become Kate Middleton's charity boss, which the princess was unaware of. 60-year-old Paul Carberry was the chief executive of Action for Children, a charity supported by Princess Diana. He had the opportunity to meet Kate Middleton, who serves as the charity's patron. He was also involved in Scotland's Serious and Organised Crime Task Force, holding the role of Strand Lead for Divert, where his responsibilities included diverting individuals from engaging in serious organised crime. But Carberry's past carries a dark secret. In 1979, he committed a brutal act, stabbing 21-year-old John Murray 5 times on a train, which also resulted in injuring another passenger. The train incident that led to Carberry's conviction occurred during a journey carrying Scottish football fans to London for a match against England. Carberry, who was associated with Glasgow's tough Coven Team gang, had consumed beer and vodka before the violence erupted. The fight began after a member of his gang molested a female passenger. Carberry was armed with a knife, which he used while pursuing Murray. His first victim was Michael McBain, a 22-year-old who was asleep on the floor at the time. Murray became a target when he found himself cornered by a locked door. Carberry was then arrested when the train made a stop in Warrington, Cheshire. In December of that year, at the age of 17, he was found guilty in the Chester Crown Court and sentenced to Her Majesty's pleasure, meaning he would remain in jail until it was confirmed that he was safe to be released. Carberry spent time in both youth and adult prisons before his eventual release in 1985. He went on to pursue a career as a social worker, steadily progressing in his professional endeavors. Rising through the ranks, he eventually secured the position of chief executive at Action for Children. The charity, fully aware of his past, appointed him as CEO, recognizing the transformative journey he had undergone. Carberry's dedication to supporting vulnerable young people and aiding those involved in crime has had a positive impact on thousands of children and young individuals. Before being interviewed for the CEO role, he disclosed his conviction to the chair of the organization, Sarika Patel, emphasizing that his time in prison marked a turning point in his life. He explained that while he could not change his past actions, he had committed himself to rehabilitation and dedicating his life to helping vulnerable young people. He shared that not a day goes by without him thinking about the impact of his crime on the victim's family, recognizing that they lost a loved one because of his actions. Out of respect for the victim and their family, he had not previously spoken about his criminal past. So when he met Kate Middleton at a primary school event in May of the previous year, she did not know about his history. Photographs captured him having a light-hearted conversation, discussing the topic of teaching children about emotions. No action was taken against Carberry as he showed significant signs of improvement and had already served the sentence he deserved. Number 4. A crime of hate. In March 2022, early in the morning, a man shot and killed his boss inside an office building at Greenway Plaza. 26-year-old Montavious Wright is facing charges of first-degree murder for the shooting incident that resulted in the death of his own boss. The workplace shooting occurred in the middle of the workday at the 3800 block of Cummins. Following the shooting, Wright left the premises, triggering an intense manhunt to locate him. Investigators discovered 9mm bullet casings near the victim, identified as 48-year-old Doran Kelly after he was shot. A witness who happened to be a co-worker of both Wright and Kelly told that he heard the gunshot and observed Wright pointing a gun while looking outside his cubicle. The witness recounted that Wright warned him not to say anything before fleeing down the stairwell. The witness had worked alongside Wright for around 2 years, but had no knowledge of the motive behind the shooting. After Wright's arrest, when he was taken in for an interview, he chose to terminate the interview as soon as his Miranda rights were read to him. During the court hearing, the judge imposed a bond supervision order, which established specific conditions that Wright must follow if he is released on bond. These conditions included having no contact with any family member of the victim or his co-workers, maintaining a distance of 500 feet from the workplace where the shooting took place, surrendering his passport, limiting his travel to Harris County and its surrounding area, refraining from using illegal drugs or alcohol, possessing no weapons, and wearing a GPS monitoring device to track his movements. Other employees in the building expressed their shaken feelings after the incident, with one person stating their sense of relief at not having been directly involved in the terrifying situation. Chris Idle, an employee of another company within the building, mentioned feeling fortunate but also acknowledged the shock and disbelief surrounding the event. Wright did not have any prior criminal history in Harris County. He was charged with first-degree murder, with his bond set at $500,000. Number 3. A failed paycheck. On October 20th, 2022, in Aurora, Colorado, a security guard shot and killed his boss after he was unable to cash his check. 35-year-old Lloyd Love Jr. murdered his boss, 52-year-old Marvin Johnson. The motive behind the attack was a misspelled name on Love's paycheck, amounting to $165, which is why it could not be cashed. Love had only been employed at Johnson's company, American Eagle Protection Services, for 3 or 4 days. He received his first paycheck from Johnson's firm a week before the incident, but he discovered that his name on the check was misspelled as Lloyd K. Love instead of Lloyd C. Love. He immediately contacted Patricia Johnson, co-owner of the security firm, demanding a new paycheck be issued to him promptly. But Patricia explained that she couldn't provide a new paycheck until the initial one was returned. Frustrated by the situation, he went to the parking lot of a Raytheon facility where Patricia worked as an outdoor security guard. Marvin arrived at the scene to help resolve the issue, even instructing his wife to issue a new paycheck to Love. While Marvin was speaking to Patricia, witnesses claimed that Love shot Marvin in the face. The police later recovered 5.380 shell casings from the crime scene. After the shooting, Love fled the scene and contacted his girlfriend, asking her to pick him up. Once inside the car, he allegedly admitted to her that he had done something foolish, stating, "The less you know, the better." But their escape was short-lived, as a SWAT unit arrested them within minutes, leading to Love's detainment. During his initial court hearing, Love refused to leave his cell and did not appear before the judge, causing the hearing to be rescheduled. Later on, he mentioned that he was overwhelmed by numerous challenges in his life and faced a lot of pressure. He claimed to hear voices and stated that he was fed up. He dealt with mental disorders, including bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, although he expressed a reluctance to take medication for them due to the side effects. He further shared that he had been upset on the day of the incident and believed he had experienced a schizophrenic episode, hearing voices and feeling like someone was controlling him. Interestingly, Love told detectives that he believed his girlfriend had a sexual relationship with Marvin Johnson, although he later clarified that these thoughts originated from the voices in his head. He expressed remorse for his actions, stating that he should have taken his own life instead. On his Facebook profile, Johnson proudly displayed the badge of American Eagle Protective Services, the company he co-owned. In July 2022, Love had been released on a personal recognizance bond following an assault charge for allegedly throwing rocks at his sister. After this incident, Love faced a charge of first-degree murder and the possibility of serving life in prison. Number 2. No acceptance. In July 2021, at the Sugarcane Growers Cooperative in Belle Glade, Florida, an elderly man who worked as a janitor shot and killed his boss after learning that he was being fired. 86-year-old Felix Cabrera had dedicated more than 30 years of his life to working at the sugar mill, but when he was informed that he had to clock out and not return to work, he flew into a violent rage. According to authorities, Cabrera had tried to persuade his 67-year-old boss, Billy Combas, to let him keep his job for another year due to financial reasons. But his request was denied, and the victim responded with a no. This rejection upset Cabrera, leading him to draw a gun from his pocket and shoot the victim multiple times, resulting in Billy's death. Law enforcement authorities swiftly responded to the scene, discovering the lifeless body of the victim near the entrance of a building. Cabrera, still armed, was found close to the crime scene. The sheriff's office noticed that the shooting appeared to be a premeditated act, emphasizing that the prompt arrival of the deputies potentially prevented further harm to others. Because of his actions, Cabrera was charged with first-degree murder and was sent to jail without the option of bail. Number 1. A deadly comeback. In April 2023, a former employee of Konami, a prominent gaming company, was arrested for attempting to murder his boss by striking him in the head with a fire extinguisher. The suspect, a 41-year-old man, had previously worked on the same team as his 48-year-old boss, although their identities have not been disclosed. The two individuals had a hierarchical relationship, with the suspect occupying a subordinate position. However, the subordinate claimed to have endured power harassment from his boss, which ultimately drove him to take such extreme measures. Power harassment, a form of workplace bullying, involves an individual in a position of authority using their power, influence, and status to manipulate, harass, and gaslight subordinates. It appears that the relentless harassment inflicted by the boss pushed the suspect to the breaking point. Seizing an opportunity, the suspect grabbed a fire extinguisher and struck his boss from behind, targeting his head while they were both in the office. The exact details of the encounter leading to the attack remain unclear. However, reports indicate that after the altercation, co-workers intervened, pinning down the suspect until authorities arrived at the scene. The suspect was arrested and subjected to questioning by the police, during which he disclosed his motive. He told the Metropolitan Police Department, "I was being harassed and I hit him with the intention of killing him." These words indicated the suspect's acknowledgement of his actions and his admission of attempting murder. As a result, he is expected to face charges of attempted murder in connection with the incident. During the investigation, the suspect also revealed that he had previously approached Konami's Human Resources Department to report the power harassment he was enduring. But Konami allegedly denied the existence of any such harassment at the time. Fortunately, the boss survived the violent assault, although he sustained a head injury. He was undergoing treatment at a hospital, where he was expected to remain for around 1 week. The company simply transferred the suspect to another team, after which the matter was resolved. Which of these employees had the most pent-up anger for their boss? Let us know in the comments, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.